in the early 80s, I was teaching in a high school, all boys, in Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore City, called Archbishop Curley High School, named after Archbishop Curley. And I was fortunate enough to teach upperclassmen Algebra 2, pre-calculus, and trigonometry. Really some great years of my life. The rule in this high school was the students had 3 minutes to get from one class to the next. Does that sound right for those who just came from high school? 3 minutes? 3 minutes. Since I was teaching upperclassmen, I figured I could hold them accountable to get them to my classroom for my class in 3 minutes. So I stood by my door and I waited until the bell rang. And then I got ready to close it. And after a few weeks, students knew you'd see them barreling down the hallway to take a slide into the door before it got closed to make sure, because I had what was called the Pay or Stay Club. You're probably scratching your head. What's wrong with it? Pay or stay. If they were late, they had a choice to either pay a quarter or to stay after school. I taught with an overhead projector and clean the overhead transparencies. Now, those who were involved in athletics or extracurriculars, they chose to pay. Now, the principal told me one day, you know, you're going to get in trouble for this. Somebody's going to complain. Well, I took my chances. Okay? Some of the virgins, the 5 foolish ones, weren't so lucky. My students, although late, could still come in once the door was closed. The foolish virgins could not. They were unprepared. Now, preparing is something we do by nature, isn't it? I made a list of some of the things that we're preparing for. The time change last night. I found out that we have 9 clocks in our house, because I did it last night, and 2 timers that turn lights on automatically that took me probably 45 minutes to change last night, so that this morning I wouldn't be disoriented. Anybody forget to change? How about preparing for the new liturgy? The Diocese of Raleigh asked us months ago to start the preparation by doing a few things so that when November 27th came rolling around, he wouldn't say, what's going on in church? All the things have changed and I didn't know it. So that kind of preparation. How many are traveling home for Thanksgiving? Some of you have to fly. You need to make preparations ahead of time, right? You have to, if you're driving, you need to find alternate routes if you're leaving at a time that's going to be heavy traffic. How about guests for dinner? If you're having guests for dinner, you have to go prepare. You have to go shopping. You have to set the table. You have to do all kinds of things. Vacations, we make preparations. Exams and projects. You wouldn't think of going into a classroom for an exam without studying a few days, a few weeks, a few months before. Right? Unheard of. Here's one that, even though I say I'm going to be prepared, I seldom are. And that is sunrise or sunset. How many times I'm walking on the beach, and all of a sudden this beautiful sunset's happening, and my camera's up in my room. And when I go to get it, guess what? It's gone. There are certain things that preparation is, for which it's essential, very essential. The brides or the virgins were unprepared. Going back to the classroom, we had a PTA meeting, and I got a knock on my door, and it was the parents of a senior who happened to be the captain of the lacrosse team. And as they came in, they saw my little white erase board with their son Craig's name on it, that he owed $2.75. And they said, Father, you know, Craig told us to make sure we give you the money that he was late all those times, so we want to pay up his bill. How nice, right? But you know, the foolish virgins could not have that done for them. Why couldn't they ask the wise virgins? Well, they did. Why don't you give us some oil? And they refused. Didn't they know that what you do to the least of our brothers and sisters, you do for me? Why did they give them some weight? Well, because there are certain things in life that people cannot do for us. Is that right? There are certain things in life we have to do for ourselves that we aren't prepared. The oil represents our preparation, our lives of faith, how they are nurtured every day, our lives of prayer, our good works that are stored up. Not that we'll get to heaven for our good works, but all those things are ours. At the end of time, we are going to be accountable. No one will say, oh, I'll pay their debt. Let me give some of my religious life and my faith to somebody else. It's all ours. We can't waste a moment, because the last words of the gospel said we know neither the day nor the hour when our lives will be called from us, and we'll have to make an account. Quick quote: the Titanic sank on April 14, 1912. The Washington Post described this episode, quote, "In the wheelroom, a nattily uniformed officer hummed at his task. The phone rang. A minute passed. Another minute. The officer was busy. The third precious minute passed. The officer, his trivial task completed, stepped to the phone. From the crow's nest, quote, iceberg dead ahead, reversed engines. But too late. As he rushed to the controls, the pride of the seas crashed into the iceberg amid a deafening roar. 3 precious minutes. Attention to trivial details, and 600 people paid with their lives." Sisters and brothers, our spiritual lives are about getting ready. The most important